Good morning, everybody. I'm glad we could put something together here. I'm sure you're going to have questions. We don't have a whole heck of a lot to add to what you already know. Last night at about 8 o'clock, there was a shooting in a strip mall on 79th Street in 4th District in South Chicago. There were 6 persons struck by gunfire. There was 1 person who was injured while trying to get out of the way. None of them are life-threatening injuries. 3 have been treated and released already. 3 of them will probably be released. The other 3 will probably be released today. The preliminary indications is that this looks like some sort of gang violence, whether it's retaliation or what. We're not positive at this point, but it kind of fits that pattern that we're accustomed to seeing. But we haven't really made that determination. We do have some good leads on this case. It's moving forward rather quickly, and hopefully we'll be able to bring this to quick closure. But at the end of the day, we don't have a whole heck of a lot to share with you at this point, but it is moving forward.
So when you say that pattern that
Slow
you're
down,
used to seeing,
one at a time.
when you say that pattern that you're used to seeing, what was out there that you?
Well, just somebody firing into a crowd without any sort of provocation, right? So that kind of indicates to us that many times these things are tied around gang turfs and people being from rival gang factions. We've seen it time and time again. So that's what we're looking at right now, but we're not positive, Darlene. For all we know, this could be a fight over a girl. I mean, many times as a investigation progresses, it will change. You might think it's this and it becomes that.
Do you think some of the targets were?
Video? Do we have any descriptions?
We do have a good description, and we do have video that we're reviewing right now because there are a number of stores at that location who had video of the event.
Do you believe that some of the targets were affiliated with the gang?
But some of the individuals who were wounded are gang members, absolutely. And there's a number of gang conflicts going on in that vicinity. There's actually a number of them in the 4th District. There's like 5 gang conflicts going on in the 4th District. So that's a conflict that we're aware of, and that's why we're following it up the way that we are.
What sort of cooperation are you getting from the victims?
At this point, we have cooperation, but they don't really have a whole heck of a lot to give us. You know, most of these folks didn't even see what happened. So we'll see how that progresses moving forward.
How many shooters are you looking for at this point?
At this point, we've only got a description of 1, right, John? Yes. One individual firing these shots.
What do you plan to do about all the gang violence in that area? People there call it terror.
Well, what do I plan to do about the gang violence? The same things that we've been doing that has put us at all-time lows in this city. As you know, we constructed probably the most comprehensive gang violence reduction strategy in the city. As a matter of fact, just last week I was in San Francisco sharing it with my colleagues across the country. So there's no magic formula here. It's hard work and it's intelligence-based, getting in between these conflicts and preventing the next shooting. And it's hard work, and these men and women are out there working really hard. As you know, we seize more guns than any city in the country every single year, and that's not by accident. So there's things that can be done, and that's why you always hear me talking about we can make progress, but we're not going to get to the place where we want to be until something happens about the gun laws in the state of Illinois.
Is there anything that stands out about the description?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything that stands out about the description?
No, it was a very, very sterile description of the individual that we have at this point.
No
Superintendent,
precedent.
10 years ago, South Shore wasn't really considered a very violent neighborhood. What has happened in the past few years? It seems to me the last few months, all we've been doing is covering shootings in the South Shore neighborhood.
South Chicago is right now one of our busiest districts in the city. It has been certainly since I got here. I don't know what was going on 10 years ago, but I can tell you this. There's 5 or 6 districts that we look at, and again, as you know, we created a career path. The individuals who run these 5 or 6 districts that are the busiest ones generally have already had another district. We have a career path for executives in South Chicago. The 4th District is certainly one of those districts. It's one of those busy places where we need an experienced commander, and that's the system that we set up. So I can't tell you what was going on 10 years ago.
As you just said, obviously a lot of different gang factions. Have there been more gang factions? Or?
Well, look, when we did our last gang audit from the macro level last year, we identified 59 gangs with more than 650 factions. And you know, that's a dynamic that exists on the south, the west, and the north side, believe it or not. So I don't know if there's more in South Chicago than there were a couple of years ago, but there's certainly more in the city. These
Yes.
factions break up into these little tiny groups. It could be like 5 or 6 people who live on the same block.
Yesterday, one of our staff members walked between the Chicago River and Water Tower Place and saw 3 police members on each corner. From what's the strategy of concentrating so many police there when we're having lots of trouble on the south and the west side?
We cover the entire city of Chicago, and the deployments on the south and the west side are more significant than they are any place else in the city. And you all know what happens during the summer months on Michigan Avenue, and we have a strategy to prevent these mobs of kids from coming up and causing mayhem downtown. As a matter of fact, over the weekend, we had at least 5 or 6 examples of large groups of kids coming off the CTA that we escorted around basically like NATO protesters, which is the tactic that we used last year, which was so effective. So there's a strategy for Michigan Avenue, and there's a strategy for South Chicago.
Can you talk about what happened in Wrigleyville where a young woman was sexually assaulted? Any movement on that case?
You know, I don't have much to share with you on that. We're investigating it, and we'll see where it goes. I don't have a lot to report, I'm sorry.
Can you confirm she was sexually assaulted?
John?
I can get a better update. We are investigating it as a sexual
Yeah,
assault, yes.
we're investigating it. Whether or not we've confirmed that it actually occurred, I can't answer.
Superintendent, is the Marine unit back out searching for the missing voters?
Yes, we are continuing our search. At this point, it's probably more of a recovery than a rescue operation, but we will continue until we get that closure.
One more.
And Superintendent, can you go over the status one more time of the victims in the laundromat shooting, including the 2 teenagers specifically?
They all have non-life-threatening injuries.
Right, in terms of them being in and out of the hospital?
There were 3 of them that were released last night. The other 3, I believe, should be out today. They're all minor injuries. We'll get you more on that. We'll follow up. But at least a couple of them are gang members, not all of them. But certainly the pattern here indicates that it's probably likely gang violence at this point. But that may change. We'll see as we move forward. Okay?
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.